Greetings, learners! This video is about week 4 of Education 385, History, Culture, and Society. A few notes before I begin on this week's lessons. I sent this in an email, but I really wanted to talk about this. So I've taught both in-person, synchronous online classes and asynchronous online classes. And there's a lot of allure towards an asynchronous online class. I myself am in one right now because it lets you learn at your own pace. You can learn in the middle of the night, you can learn in the morning. Whenever you have a good time, that's when you can learn. But sometimes there's an illusion that it's less time on task or less work. So I want to break this down. For students in an in-person class, the university generally has a 3-hour class time. Sometimes that is reduced a little if it's a hybrid class, and then it's requiring students to meet outside of class in a group. And you're meeting with your classmates, you're meeting with your teacher. Then in addition to that, you have 1 to 3 hours of outside of class work. That could be textbook readings, it could be assignments, it could be lesson plan creation. So that's a total of 4 to 6 hours a week. Because it's the same number of credits, an asynchronous online class is designed to simulate that. That's why we have the video lectures, and they're on Edpuzzle to incentivize watching them. That's why we have the discussion board, is to emulate the class discussions you would have in class. And then there are the online class assignments and the online lesson plan creation, which we'll be getting to. It's not going to be the same amount of time, I recognize that. But it is more than an hour a week. It is more than 2 hours a week. So really think about that when you are spending time on your assignments. It is not about task completion. It's about learning. It's about demonstrating that you've read the book. It's about demonstrating that you understand the materials. So for example, for the Socratic seminar videos, were you watching them while doing 7 other things? If a student is watching the Socratic seminar Edpuzzle videos and just have it playing to answer the questions, but they're doing a bunch of other stuff, then they're not really watching, and they're not going to learn how you can use that very important, engaging, meaningful strategy with other students. And so set aside time in your week to work on your assignments where you're not being pulled in a lot of other directions, just like you would attend a class in person, and you would only be able to do that class, right? You wouldn't be able to answer questions from your kids, and I get that. I have kids. You wouldn't be at work and be in class at the same time. Ultimately, the goal is to learn how to be an effective, engaging, happy teacher. And so the work is designed with that purpose in mind. So let's get to the work of week 4. Week 4 is looking at different types of texts, children's books, textbooks, looking at different ways that students can read. It's important that students are reading in the content area. And when I say in the content area, I mean social studies, science, PE, art, okay, outside of their reading class. So fewer assignments this week because one of the assignments does take a bit of time. The first is an assignment over teaching with current events. The second is a twin text assignment, this assignment that all students who take 385 complete, and then we've got the reading and discussion. All right, so you're completing assignment number 1 right now, which is this weekly video overview. Assignment number 2 is a teaching with current events assignment. So let's take a look at that. All right, here we are in our bright space. I am in week 4. And here in week 4, we've got an Edpuzzle video on project-based learning and current events. So you're going to click on the link, log into Edpuzzle. Again, I recommend you log into Edpuzzle first, then click on this link. Please only complete the assignment once. Then the current events Padlet. So when you click on this assignment, in this assignment are a bunch of resources. These are different ways that you can use news to teach students. And news is part of social studies. Media literacy is part of social studies. So you're just going to pick 2 of these websites, review them, learn about them, what are they like, and then you're going to go to the Padlet, and same thing, make sure your name is on your Padlet, make sure that your answer is thoughtful and meaningful. The next assignment is the twin text assignment, and this is pretty substantial. So let's take a look at the examples for that one. So here's the twin text assignment. All of the directions are listed here, but the idea is you're going to think of something in history, an event or a concept, right? In primary, in K1, 2, 3, it's less history as events and more social studies. What is the community? What are community leaders? What are role models? Who are Americans we can learn about? And so you're going to compare a textbook, and all of those grades down to second have a textbook, and then compare a piece of children's literature. I would recommend not doing this for grades K and 1. Even if that's the grade that's like, that's my jam, I really want to do it then, I really want to do kindergarten, pick a different grade for this. It'll just be easier for you. So let me pull up an example because that's a lot easier for me to explain. All right, so here's an example. And so they did it in a table. There's lots of different ways that you can do this. You can do a table, you could do a spreadsheet, you could do a Google slide deck or a PowerPoint. They've got the title of their textbook and then their title of the children's book, the author, and then they've got their state standards. The topic, so for this one, it is Gold Rush era of California, okay? This is a synopsis of what this section of their textbook, not the whole textbook, and then this is a synopsis of the children's book, okay? And then you go through, you answer all the questions that are on the assignment. Here is another example in a Google Doc. It's laid out a little differently. They didn't do a textbook. So here's the procedure. This is how they would use the first book and then the other activities. Okay, it's not super long, but it does require you to get a hold of a textbook. If you, I need to update this as Blackboard. If you cannot get a textbook, you don't have access to a student who has a textbook, you don't feel comfortable going to elementary school to textbook, you tried the library, you can't get a textbook, there is a link here to the Michigan Open Book Project, and you can do an open source, means online textbook. This is sort of a last resort because this is an 8-week class. If you need an extension on this assignment, please ask for it. I will absolutely give an extension if you need more time on this assignment. And then the final assignment is the reading discussion. There is a post, a reply, and then commenting on the replies. And the reason I'm having you comment on the replies is so that they're just not out there in the universe. I want to know that you've read what people have posted on your thought. And so that makes it more like a conversation, right? If we're sitting at a table and I was like, oh, I have this idea, la, 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 and then you reply and I just walk away, or I walk away while you're replying to me, that's not a conversation. And so that's why I'm having you comment back on the replies. And so the reading discussion is here. And here is the parts of chapter 7 and part of chapter 8. Okay, again, I can really tell when you haven't read the book. I can also tell when you're using AI. Same thing on the twin text assignment. Please don't use AI. That does violate university and department policies. But again, it's just not going to help you be a good teacher. In the future, in 5 years, can you use AI to help you teach? Yes. But right now, while we're learning the craft of teaching, we're learning about what is teaching, what is pedagogy. You have a wonderful week. If you have time off for Veterans Day, I hope that you enjoy that. If you're traveling, safe travels. Please send me a message if you need me. All right. Take care, guys. Bye.